detache, spiccato, legato, and martelé are some of the strokes that I use, and they're very, very helpful. Legato is you connect two notes together, and if you have the, and you have, that's all separate. If you want to do it legato, you go. So that's legato, that's one that has two notes as a slur. If you want three notes as a slur, you go. So that's a legato, you know, and of course, legato, if you play certain pieces of music, it's all written out for you, you know, as a phrase marking. So I get back to my favorite example of the second movement of the Mendelssohn Concerto. So if you were to play it without legato, the beginning, it will sound like this. So, but if you play the legato, so the second and third and fourth note, you slur, it goes. You can go. You can play two notes in one bow, and so on. I always feel that legato is good for phrasing, but sometimes, you know, if there are too many notes per bow, I feel that you should feel free to divide it. So that if you have 4 notes per bow, playing 2 and 2, as opposed to all 4, because then you may run out of bow. So anyway, so legato basically is a slur of, you know, you take several notes and you play them all in one bow. So that's legato, as opposed to detache, which means that separate bow on the string. That's a detache. So now comes one of my favorite, you know, bowings, which is the spiccato. With spiccato, as you bounce your bow off the string. Now, spiccato is an interesting stroke. It's a pain in the neck kind of a stroke. Why is it a pain in the neck? Because it's a question of how do you do it, and what part of your bow do you use. So here it is. Remember when I was reminding you about making sure that your wrist is not stiff, so that it doesn't look like the wrist has you know, like a cast over it. All right. So if you go with spiccato, you want a spiccato with your wrist. And slightly with your fingers. And just think about if you want to wave goodbye. If you wave goodbye like this, you know, that's the kind of spiccato. So if you want to play it faster, you go. But always feel that there is a kind of an action going up and down, up and down. So another thing about spiccato is make sure it does not come from the shoulder. So you go, the minute you go, there's always a tendency, some people, to go like that. That's bad, because it only makes you tired, and it doesn't really give you a bounce. So what you have to do is relax your shoulder. You know, just relax. So you see, notice in my wrist, how my wrist is working, as well as my fingers, and I'm not really giving a lot of effort, you know. Also, make sure that the bow is in the nice point of contact, you know. Make sure that it's right, kind of in the middle, that it's not here and that it's not there, sort of in the middle. Another thing that I can tell you about the spiccato is that you don't want to make it happen. You want to let it happen. And think about for example, if you were to play any sort of ball, the basketball or tennis or whatever it is, especially basketball, when you dribble the ball, you push the ball down and let the ball comes up to you. You don't dribble like I dribble and then I dribble it again. You know, you let the ball do the work. And that's the same thing with the bow. The bow, when it jumps, you want to make sure that it sort of, as it jumps back to you, you just gently press it down. It'll jump again. You want to do, you want to make your bow work for you. You know, if you try too hard like that, and again, it's stiffening the upper arm and the elbow. That's a no-no for spiccato. It's also a no-no for flying spiccato. You know, which a lot of people find that's very difficult because they're trying to make it work. What I do is I just push the first note and then let the bow do the jumping. Make the bow work for you. Don't force the bow to jump because it will not do that. The bow says, I'm not jumping, you know. I'm only jumping if you leave me alone. Just leave me alone. So it's not like, well, you're next, but if I go like that and let go, see, I don't do anything. I just go like that. So I go from the top and then I just drop it down and let the rest of the bow sort of bounce. Now, I'm not telling you that it's easy. I mean, I've had a couple of years to work on it, but what the important thing of the Ricochet and the Spiccato is to get the feel of freedom in the bow. You know, so just let the bow control the bow, but let the bow do its thing, do its bouncing. The bouncing. So I think that as exercise, if you can just do one note, bounce the bow, and then just pull the bow out like that and try not to sustain. Just relax. In other words, you're not going like this. You're not trying. You know, just let go. Go, and just relax. And then you can sort of try and do it with one note, then do it with two notes. You know, and if you do it like that, you can actually play spiccato and just do it forever and not be tired. The minute you get tired, then you have to figure out, am I using the upper arm? Is that what's making me tired? Because I shouldn't do that. You know, so your sort of the hint that you're doing it wrong is if you get immediately tired after doing it for a while, it's not relaxed enough. It's got to be relaxed enough, and you have to, again, let me say it again, you have to let your bow do the work. Don't make your bow do it. That's my suggestion to that. You've got something that's called Martelé, which is a lot of bow speed, and you attack the stroke on each side. So you go, and then, now how do you attack the stroke? You attack it with your wrist and with your fingers. See? See, that's the passage that I would say is a little bit like a Martelé. Here. Without the Martelé, it will sound like this. Will sound a little smoother. So the Martelé gives it a little bit more of a kind of a pizzazz. So now, how do you do a Martelé? Again, you do it a little bit with your wrist. That wrist is really so important. And each wrist stroke, you know, you want to make sure that you kind of press it down and let go. So each one has, it's like a little bit of a, you do a little pressure and then let go. And then you have that little kind of a little attack there on each stroke that gives it a nice articulation. And that's the important thing, to have the articulation. You put the bow on the string and you just go. You want to give a close up to my right hand? Now, tremolo has to do with how old you are. You know, if you're very young, the tremolo is really very fast. If you're old like me, then it becomes, shall we say, a little more comfortable. Pizzicato is the plucking of the string. Like that, with your right hand and plucking the string. Now there is a right hand pizzicato, and then of course there is the left hand pizzicato, which is you put the one finger on the string and you pluck with the other one. That's basically what it is. And of course, guitar players always use pizzicato. You can, that's one of the things that can die on the editing floor. Double stops are two notes at the same time. Those are the things that you practice when you have to practice your scales. You practice the double stops, and then when it comes to playing a piece of music that has double stops, you already have the basis of in your hands of the double stops, whether it's in thirds or in sixths or in octaves, you know, all things that contain two notes at the same time are double stops. Harmonics are a curse because nice harmonics, you know, harmonics is, again, you put the finger like that and then the fourth finger is. You put the first finger and then you have a fourth up. And the fourth finger then does not, only touches the string, but it doesn't go all the way to the fingerboard. So if you go like that, that's not going to have harmonics. But if you go, so then you can play a tune. Like that. And of course, Paganini was well-renowned, and I will not demonstrate, but was well-renowned by double stop harmonics, you know. So that's I'm not gonna. I can't even play that. I have to practice that. That one I have to practice. That's the first position. So that's first position. Now, if you're going to move, it's by one tone. You go. So as you notice how my hand moves from here to there. Now, that's the third position. I love two positions. For me, are the favorite ones when it comes to fingering a piece, first position and third position, because they're both kind of, for me, they're basic. The space is basic. The third position is very comfortable. You know, it's right here, very, very comfortable. The minute you start to go up, then you really have to think more accurately about intonation as to where you are. For me, it's much easier, you know, if you go all the way to the first position, It's a fantastic, it's very comfortable. I remember a wonderful violinist, Russian violinist, David Oistrakh, and he would always, whenever he would start, let's say on the third position or fourth position or whatever it is, he would always go first position and then go to the position that he needed, because the first position is your base. That's where you are the most comfortable. And then if you want to go like there, he would go first, and then he would place the hand there. So the distance between the first and whatever position you want, whether it's the fifth or the sixth or whatever it is, it's always nice to know where you are first. So the first position is kind of your comfort zone. So that's and of course, basically the positions are as you go up. You had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. As far as playing comfortably, as you go up the fingerboard of the violin, the spaces of the tones become smaller and smaller. So that's what you have to adjust. So in order for you to play on a high position, you have to really make sure that your fingers are really, well, they're used to very close to each other. My fingers, as you can see, are a little bit on the fat side. So when you have fat fingers here, everything, it becomes. So if you can close it up, so you have a half a tone like that. If somebody with thinner fingers, it would be much easier than for me, because for me, what I have to do is I have to play this one and then almost replace the finger with the second finger. Otherwise, it will be out of tune, because so it's a little tricky. So when somebody says, "Oh my God, you got big fat hand, isn't it great?" and I usually say it's wonderful for a cellist, but for a fiddle player, it's a little uncomfortable, especially in the upper positions. But that's my problem.